the club. You're not sure? Welcome to the club. There is nothing, I mean literally nothing you are facing right now that the great ones didn't face before. It ain't just you dealing with it. Everybody got to deal with insecurities. Everybody got to deal with fear.
And you might have to say, I'm going to get through this over and over and over until you believe it.
The great ones fight through. Everyone has challenges and setbacks. That's a part of the journey. Can you please do you a favor and get out of your head?
You're still wishing and you're still hoping for it. You're still planning. Like you've been planning this for 5 years. Get out of your own head.
Because once you taste that success, I want you to keep eating. Once you get success on your lips, I want you to keep drinking. Once you understand the keys of success, it's not the end. It is only the beginning. Because you understand, once you get that breakthrough, you finally understand what you're capable of.
Purpose is bigger than the pain, and the promise is bigger than the process. And I know it's hard right now, and I know you feel like quitting, but you gotta understand there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. Stop lying to yourself and telling yourself that you have time. See, the greatest lie that you have believed far too long is that you have time. You have time. That there is a tomorrow, that you can drag your feet and you can crawl. Sometimes you gotta run. You can't crawl towards some dreams. You can't walk towards some dreams. Some dreams you gotta run toward. You gotta run, baby. Run, run, run. Run after it. Run like there's no tomorrow. Run like you know you deserve it. Run like you know that there is nobody else that can attain it. Run after it.
Current Jehovah's Witnesses, can you imagine what your life would be like if those were the talks being given from the podium on Thursdays, on Sundays? Can you imagine if that's what your Watchtower and Awake magazines were putting out to you? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JW Free Podcast. My name is James and I'm your host. And I told you guys last week that we're going to start expanding the conversation. We're going to start adding some things. I'm going to start giving some things back to you that are helpful and nourishing. And you know what? I'm going to ask this question not just to Jehovah's Witnesses, but Mormons. Matter of fact, all of Christianity, all of that, all the churches, everything associated with it. Can you imagine what would happen if they were teaching you these kinds of principles, if you were hearing these kinds of messages every Sunday? It would be beautiful. It would be great, life-changing, confidence-building, self-esteem building. Your self-talk would be off the chain positive. But the reality is, it isn't. Why is that? That is designed, current Jehovah's Witnesses, the rest of you in these religions that break your spirit, they are designed to do this. Because if they are giving you those messages in no time at all, in no time at all, you would be done with them. Do you understand? But before we get into the audio and start talking about that, I want to ask you a question. Last week, I talked a little bit about real estate tax deed sales. Did you take the time to look into it? I'll wait. Did you? Did you follow through? Just look at it. Did you do that? That's important. Follow through is important. I'm sure everybody doesn't have real estate as a goal. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. The point is, for some people, that was a set of new information that I gave you. And for those of you who do have real estate as your goal, let me tell you why it's important that you start. Because when you start checking things off your list, especially the small things, they build momentum, right? When you start checking them off your list, this isn't always about money and success. That's part of it too. But the most important part of what I'm about to say is this. When you check those things off the list as completed, it does wonders for your self-esteem and your confidence. You want more of that. I already told you what your religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, is designed to do to your self-esteem and confidence. You have former elders and people who worked at Bethel coming out all over the place telling you that is what it's designed to do. When you check these things off, you start to reverse that trend. You start to reverse that negative self-talk, how you're talking to yourself inwardly. And now you're starting to feel like, hey, I want some more of that. I want some more of how it feels to, you know what, I did look at that information. And you know what, this is a direction I'd like to continue looking into. This is a direction I'd like to go. And then for those of you who continue down that road, you go in, you start grabbing your information, seeing how things work out, and then you finally make your purchase. Imagine how that feels, ladies and gentlemen. I want you guys to be part of that. I want you to experience positivity, Jehovah's Witnesses. I can't speak for the Mormons. I don't know exactly what they teach in these other Christian sects, SECTS. But I want you to experience what positive feels like, because especially if you're born in all of our lives, we're given this negativity, this constant beating and drumming and bludgeoning of negativity. Positivity feels good. It simply requires you to do something, to take action, whereas negativity doesn't at all. I want you to have that thought in your head while we go through today's podcast. I'm not going to get into the real estate. We talked about that last week. I've given that for you so you can start your way if that's what you choose to do. Now, let's get into the audio. For those of you later on, or even if you pause the podcast and do it now, if you listen to that entire, I think it's 10 minutes and 5 seconds, that entire audio, you will note one word that is used through the entire thing. 3 letters. You. Y-O-U. You. You. You, you, you. There was no praying about it. There was no letting Jesus take the wheel. There was no let's talk to the Holy Spirit about it. There was no let's have faith in God and Jehovah. And maybe they do those things. But you notice that wasn't the forefront of the message. The message was you do these things. You get inside of you and figure out what you need to get moving. Nothing you ever accomplish in this world will ever come from the outside. I've said this to you before. You can have all the faith you want, and you can, force yourself to believe that you got what you got because of your faith. Let me tell you what happens with faith. It is only used. It is a hitch along. It is a hitch along, just like with all those other beliefs, Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit. That is a hitch along to something that you did. Because if you left those things to the side and just did the work, you will still get the same results. You understand me? Are you following me? So you, let that rest in your mind for right now. You have to do something. You have to take action. Even if you're ready to leave the organization and you still believe in God, but you don't believe in the Jehovah's Witnesses, as long as you keep leaving it in Jehovah's hands or in God's hands, you're going to stay in that organization. I promise you. Now, it sounds simple enough, right? But it's difficult. And why isn't everybody doing it? Because this organization specifically, their curriculum is designed to break your will. And what it does is it gets you addicted to the drug called comfort. That is a quote. Addicted to a drug called comfort. That is a quote later on in that audio. You are comfortable not doing anything. You are comfortable not being disciplined. Remember, recent weeks, we've continued to talk about born-in Jehovah's Witnesses never having the chance to exercise their muscles of discipline because we're constantly being told Jehovah's going to do it for you. Leave it in Jehovah's hands. Wait for the new system. So you become comfortable in doing nothing. You become comfortable in that area in your head that I call the realm of nothing. It's comfortable there for you. And while I'm on that, let me say something else to you who are ready to leave. Not just the PMOs, the physically in, mentally out, but anybody in any other category of Jehovah's Witness, current Jehovah's Witness who's ready to leave. If you heard in the audio, it's not just you. You're not alone. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. Even though you're ready to leave, you still have to prepare to go, which means you have to do something. That is what that entire audio is about. You have to do something. You have to start preparing. Yes, some of you are going to pay a heavy price for leaving. But what is the alternative, right? You being miserable for the rest of your life to keep other people happy? These people who are threatening you to leave you whether it's Jehovah's Witnesses, the elders, your family, they're threatening to leave you if you decide to go your way. First of all, those are manipulative tactics. No one who is good for you is going to do those kinds of things to you to keep you in their lives. Decent people don't have to do that. They don't. There's the constant threat of cutting off, and those are people you don't need in your life as much as it hurts. That's the alternative. You can sit in there and be miserable and have nothing, or you can slowly make your way out, start formulating a plan for you. You know what that is better than I do. Recognize you're not alone, and start making plans to do things that enrich and encourage your life. Okay? Let's leave that right there. Today, I want to talk about, especially those of you who've been affected by the what's happening in the world. I don't like to give it life, so I rarely use the name. But those of you, current Jehovah's Witnesses especially, but this is applicable to anybody. I want to talk about Lyft, the rideshare program, not so much Uber. I've done both. But I want to focus on Lyft today. And the reason why is because, if you've been affected, this is a great way to start earning money immediately. You don't have to do it forever, but it's a great way to start getting yourself out of the hole. It's a fantastic way to start building your way to whatever it is you're trying to do. So I want to give some of the things that I've learned over the last 5 years. I got 5 years in, and it's been great. And the other reason I'm doing this is because I'm transitioning out of it, so I'm not, killing myself by doing this. But I just think it's great for some of you to get you going. So here we go. The first thing you need to know is that this is a customer service position. First and foremost, out the gate, obviously, because you're dealing with people of all backgrounds, everything, their work, everything. These will be different people every ride that gets in the car. So if you don't have the customer service chops, and don't get that confused with talking a lot, okay? Don't get that confused, because sometimes your quietest passenger will tip you handsomely if you know to leave them alone. So understand it's customer service, and understand you have to be able to learn to read people successfully, sometimes with very little discussion. You may have to read a person just based off of a good morning. And these things go a long way in terms of your income. For example, if I pick up a passenger from the airport and the passenger gets in, always greet them. Always greet your passengers no matter what the situation. Good morning, good afternoon, and feel them out from there. But if I pick up somebody and this person gets in and just starts rambling away, because there are several types of passengers you're going to get. One that talks a lot, one that doesn't want to talk, one that'll get in and won't say anything, but throughout the trip will start to warm up to you. But if I get a passenger that gets in and starts talking right away, I know now, let them talk. And not let them talk so that when there's a quiet moment, you can butt in and give your experience. But let them talk, and when there is that quiet moment, ask them another question so they can continue talking. People love talking about themselves. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Okay? Let them talk. And at the end of that, not everybody's going to give you a tip, okay? But at the end of that, you have just, you've made it more likely that you will increase a tip. And many times when you're coming from airports, those are, $20+ rides. Many times, not all the time. So you've just taken that ride. If you handled it correctly and you greeted them and you listened to them and you asked them the right questions and you have the right music playing or the right sports talk on the radio, and the temperature in the car is pleasant, and your driving is good. You have to be a good driver too, you guys. There's a lot of multitasking as a Lyft driver, okay? And all those things are working in your favor. You've just increased the chances of getting a tip. And it's usually not a small tip when you're coming from the airport. So on average, I'll receive a $10 tip. So I just took a $20, $25 ride, okay? $20, $25, handled it appropriately, and the passenger at the end of it just left me a $10 tip.